House Republicans wrapping up their investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election, concluding that there was no collusion with the Trump campaign. But the Intelligence Committee's top Democrat isn't satisfied with the outcome, and Adam Schiff says there is more work to be done.
The only authorized investigation in the House of Representatives into what the Russians did in the last election, what the U.S. government response was, and the issue of any coordination or collusion with the Trump campaign. That was a terrible disservice to the country and the American people.
Joining me now is Republican Congressman Doug Collins, who is a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Sir, thank you for joining us. What is your response to what Adam Schiff just said there?
Well, I think you really have to decide, is Adam Schiff the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee, or is Adam Schiff now moved over to the DCCC and wanting to keep an election year narrative going? I think what we've got to understand here is there's been investigations. They have found, and from our perspective, echoing what the president has said, that there was no collusion. What we did find was that, yes, Russia was involved. We saw that, and that is coming out in the report. What Adam and Schiff's wanting to do is continue to make a political point and a political statement about the president without really focusing on anything of fact. He's looking at innuendo, possibilities. This looks a little bit funny. This is just a narrative that's been spun by them from day one. They don't really want the issue solved. They want the issue for the election cycle.
You know, it does seem like both parties are interested in possibly attaching or making sure that the Russian actions aren't attached to them personally, but then what gets lost is actually doing something about how much meddling and damage they're doing everywhere, including, you know, what went on UK soil, whether a nerve agent was used you know, by the Russians inside someone else's country. This is, it all amounts to scary stuff for the American people, and some feel like politicians are bickering rather than taking care of it.
Oh, you know, look, for those of us who've been, you know, way before this story became popular on the news channels, I've been in the military now for almost 16, 17 years. And when we look at Russia, Russia's always been this kind of player. They're a disruptive agent. Putin is a classic Cold Warrior. He comes from that mentality. He wants to be a disruptive agent. He wants to be relevant. None of us are saying that this is not happening. The president today, the sanctions that were initiated by the Treasury Department are directed at what they did during elections and what they're doing overseas. I agree with Nikki Haley. I agree that we need to stand with the UK, that the Russian involvement over there is dangerous, and we need to continue to force that. I support their decisions and what they're doing right now. These are actions that you take place. But again, as you look at it from an overall perspective, we need to make sure that our elections are hardened, that we have people understanding what's going on, and that is what we are doing, and our intelligence community has always been about that.
So you mentioned the sanctions from today. Do you think that that's enough?
I think they're stepping forward in the right direction to say, here's where we're going, and here's where we're needing to be going in this, and to punish those that are actually looking at this. Look, this is a decision in a complicated process in which Russia has decided to play in elections and also play in internal politics, just as they have always wanted to be relevant. It's not an American phenomenon. We've seen it. I've been traveling in Eastern Europe. You see it in the Middle East. You see it with Russia Today and their propaganda network. They do this to try and continue to paint a picture of Russia that is not reality. And I think this is just Putin being Putin.
Ambassador John Bolton said earlier today that deterrence has to be very strong, that's how you respond to something like this. You hit them so hard after they do it that they think twice before they do it again if they are operating from that Cold War mentality. What does that include in your mind? Very strict deterrence. What would that be?
Well, I think some of the things that's already been discussed, starting with these sanctions and then continuing the process to say, is we see this happening in the UK, supporting our ally UK as they take very tough action of expelling diplomats and doing the things that need to be done. Also beginning to, in my mind, is beginning to check them in other places across the world where they're coming in, and that we have the stronger hand. I think the president, I'm very proud that the president has said we're going to have a strong presence in areas and not let other countries. Now, we'll work with countries when we can, but we're going to have the strongest presence across the world, and Putin is going to know that he's going to be checked where he goes.
That last point is an important one that I hadn't heard earlier about checking Russians where they are exerting influence in other places around the world. That's going to be tough. It's a tall order. Thank you for coming on today, sir. Appreciate it.
It's good to see you. Take care.